All right, gang, if you are watching or listening, I am very excited to have with me director Shihan Van Clief, who just premiered his first horror film titled My First Horror Film. And looking at the trailer, this thing looks like it's a lot of fun. Like, what would you do to get that first role type thing? But then shit starts hitting the fan. You can
Yeah.
tell by the trailer pretty excessively and rapidly. But man, thank you for coming on and congratulations on getting it released.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm definitely glad it got released. It was I feel a lot of first time directors, filmmakers go into it not knowing what the hell the end process is gonna look like and what's gonna happen with it. And luckily, we had some people come down to one of the film festival screenings. And
Mm.
after it was over, they were like, "Hey, do you have distribution? Are you interested in distribution?" I was like, "Of course I am." And then they set up a few meetings, and we went with Dread. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a heck of a name to have attached to your first horror movie too. Dread is doing a really nice job at exposing the independent horror scene, like getting
Yes.
getting the original film ideas the exposure that they actually deserve, and it's allowing us to be able to see these horror movies that 5 years ago you probably wouldn't have gotten to,
For
and
sure.
they're definitely like a pretty big pillar in that movement that's happening.
Yeah, I agree with that. And like I said, I'm appreciative and grateful that they said yes. People will get to see it beyond just friends and family and folks at the film festival circuits.
For sure, for sure. So tell me, man, what was like, without getting too spoilery, to like tell the people like the inspiration and what is the story that you're gonna get to experience with this movie.
So inspiration wise, it was a friend of mine, along with an interview I saw at the same time. Saw an interview with an actress, and she was talking about how difficult it is for struggling actors to find work. And she goes,
Sure.
the way things are, you could tell an actor, meet me in an alleyway, just get in the van, and don't worry, we'll be fine. And most actors who are struggling to get put on and looking for opportunity will do it without even second guessing the awkwardness or the sketchy vibe that they're getting. They would just do it. And then the
Mm,
other side of it was one of my friends gave me Robert Rodriguez's book, Rebel Without a Crew, and told me to read it. And I'm super critical of things. And he goes, "Yo, if you're gonna be critical of things without allowing yourself to be critiqued, you're just being an asshole. So you're gonna have to create something." So
right.
from the start of that challenge to completion of the film was about 6 weeks. It took about 3 weeks to write the script. Then we had some rewrites in the middle of shooting, and then we had a couple of reshoot days, which were scenes that were added to the film. As far as inspirations go, Halloween, Friday the 13th, 2 specifically, Blair Witch, and um, because I was a John Carpenter guy, like growing up, my dad, one of the first films I ever remember seeing in theaters was The Thing. And
Mm,
so, yeah, so for me, that kind of had a thing. Oh, and I can't leave out Nightmare on Elm Street, mainly because the humor that was at that point, I hadn't really seen in anything like that. And they made such a dynamic character with Freddy that those were kind of the inspirations that went into creating the film.
right on, man. The names that you mentioned as far as inspiration for a while there were very first person camera shot heavy.
Yes. Yeah.
So do you guys do in your movie, do you use that technique at
Yeah.
all?
So there's first person. Um, And there's obviously regular shots. The way we have the film set up is it is an aspiring influencer slash YouTuber who is documenting her journey to booking her first film. She books her first film and she doesn't know it, but people are disappearing on set and she is unknowingly trying to survive a horror film she just got casted in. And so there's humor involved in it and, horror, but it is, you know, definitely there's some first person going on because she is sneaking a camera on set while there's also cameras shooting the film. So there's
Yeah.
cameras being used over the course of the film.
It's funny. That's pretty cool to hear you talk about that experience because we made back in when I was in film school, we made like a series, a couple episodes about a group of friends that wanted to find a serial killer so that they could like help the cops catch the guy with the thought that a Netflix show was going to be made about it. And it's like horror movie fans do this kind of shit with
Yeah,
that like mindset. So it's totally believable that like a horror movie actress who's a horror movie fan first is going to make a YouTube series about her getting her first major role. Like that
right,
does not sound crazy at all as far as like the believability factor.
right, right. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, that was intentional for sure. Uh, Along with how we casted it, I felt like we wanted to make sure we casted people who came off natural in the roles. Like,
Sure.
and there was the script, of course, but we also wanted to cast people who had some level of improv,
Mm.
so that we can kind of do that as well. So we make sure we get the lines we needed first, then we do a few takes where we allow actors to kind of play with the lines and see what we can get out of it. And so I think we did had a good mix of getting both in to the film.
So with that, you try to get the cast that gels the best together. Was a lot of that people that you knew going in, or were you finding these people as you guys were setting up to film?
So yeah, no, we did cast. There were a couple people who I knew, who I knew two of the actors. Two of the actors. I never worked with them ever, but I knew them
Hmm.
from circles, and everyone else was gotten through auditioning, and we had multiple Zoom readings, auditions, kind of read throughs to find people that kind of meshed well, because I thought that was super important. And I think the biggest wrench that got thrown into our plans with regards to casting was we winded up losing two actors the Friday before we started shooting.
Oh
So we
man,
had a mad scramble that weekend to find someone to replace these two actors who wound up getting COVID. And then one of the roles had to switch. So someone who had a major role winded up, because of time constraints, not being able to do that and had to shift to a smaller role to kind of still be involved with the film. So there was a lot that went into it.
so with that, did you guys like have that person on deck that comes in, or were they having to learn everything completely on the
They
fly?
had to learn everything from scratch,
Wow.
which I commend them on, because they got it done and they did a great job. I believe they did a great job. They, yeah, they did not know anything. They literally got a call from one of the actors who was already casted, said, "Hey, I have a couple friends. You should check these people out." Da da da. We did a quick run, had them do some stuff, and we decided on it. They were sent the sides on that Sunday, and we started shooting on Monday. So they kind of went
Gee.
through it really well and did a great job, super professional, and came prepared, which helped, especially on independent films where you have budget constraints, and you're trying to figure out like how to make stuff happen, and you're trying to stretch money, you're trying to stretch time, but you also realize you are restricted to the time given because you are asking for a lot of favors when you're doing indie films. So yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
So with that, did you guys film it in Southern California? Where are you guys based at?
Yeah, so we're in Southern California. We filmed the majority of the film in Southern California. There were some pickup scenes and shots filmed in Connecticut, and
Hmm.
that was it. So yeah, so California and Connecticut were our two locations, and yeah, as a matter of fact, the stuff that was filmed in Connecticut was some of the first person stuff,
Oh,
some of the first person
okay.
shots,
All right.
uh, and so yeah, there was like some cemetery scenes and some town scenes and some running around stuff that happened, and so that was done in Kent, Connecticut, and the rest was shot out here in California, in Southern Cal.
Dude, there's nothing that beats the East Coast cemeteries.
Man, first of all, the cemeteries across the street from where someone lives is just an adjustment for people, especially
It's,
out here. Because I'm from New
it's
York, so I'm used to
insane.
seeing that. But when you live across the street from the cemetery, that was one of my concerns in one of the shots, because I had to shoot I shot a cemetery scene at night, running through a cemetery, and I was scared that the person who lived on the grounds was going to see someone running around, thinking I was joking around and possibly shoot me or do something to me. So
Yeah.
definite concerns, but it is a thing. Those East Coast cemeteries, that small town vibe is a real thing. I had people telling me, matter of fact, back east, were like, yeah, you shouldn't breathe. You should hold your breath when you shoot that scene because there's a lot of belief in that. Like you hold your
Yeah.
breath when you run through a cemetery, all this stuff. So it added to the lore in my head of what was going on with the film.
It's interesting being a California kid. It was always tunnels. They always used to say when we were kids, hold your breath in a tunnel in the Bay Area. I never heard the cemetery thing until going out there as an adult. And I was like, that's interesting that, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Cemetery one's way creepier.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, man, the fact that you guys filmed in LA too, like movies like Scream 3, they always get like a shitty rap, but I love horror movies that take place in the industry.
Right.
Just recently, Russell Crowe just did one.
Oh yeah.
The Exorcism or something.
The Exorcism. It was The Exorcism. I went to see
that was a damn good movie, and
it was a good, solid concept too.
Yeah, and I think people kind of like were shaking their finger at it because he was just in like one last year where he's an actual priest.
Right.
And so with that, I think the trailer, I mean, no fault, but there was kind of detriment to it, like because a lot of people I talked to were trying to figure out, is this a sequel to the one from last year? Like what was all going on? And so I think, unfortunately, it suffered. But no, if you don't know, people listening, watching, it's about him getting, much like how Shihan's talking about having to call a guy in at the last second. He's an actor who gets called in at the last second, and they're like making essentially The Exorcist. And he, spoiler alert, gets possessed and shit hits the fan. But that was a good, like, how would people in the industry making a movie as heavy as The Exorcist, how would they have handled that shit? So whenever someone makes a movie about the industry and there's a horror element on top, I love it, man. So that's cool that you guys got to film a movie about making a horror movie in LA.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Do you have a particular like scene, sequence, anything that like
my favorite
bat signal of sorts when people see this happen in the movie, they like look back and they're like, oh, this is what he's talking about?
My scene in this, there's a sequence, a sauna scene, where the director's explaining what is going to happen in the scene, unknowing to the actor that it's going to happen to him. He thinks it's just part of the overall set, but there's a intercut which is in there of a game of hide and seek that's taking place in the woods, and that overall scene is my favorite scene in the film. I just love the way it kind of plays out, and it shows all the things. I think it shows, again, a film about a film, shows the intricacies of actually running a film that is an independent film but a low budget film, and then runs into the horror aspect of it where you realize there's an actual danger that these actors are now going to be facing that they didn't realize was part of the deal when they signed up to be in the film.
The whole subtext of the thing.
Yes.
So with this movie coming out now, man, is horror your genre? Like, do you want to play in horror for a while? Do you want to try to do, because I know my goal was like I wanted to play in horror and all the different subgenres of horror before doing anything else. So do you what is your kind of like goals and game plan?
I mean, I would love to be able to do a couple more horror films. I think what I wanted to do, as a filmmaker, my head was thinking about stretching myself to see what I could do. And so the next feature that we're going to be starting, hopefully before the end of the year, is actually in the thriller genre. It's more in the fugitive meets Thelma and Louise-ish kind of setup. But I grew up, being raised by a single father, so being a single father, I get to see everything he wants to see in the theater. So I went and saw everything from, again, the Thing to the Boogans to, Halloween to Nightmare on Shore. I got to see all those things as a little kid, which, some adults now go, what the hell? Why were you taking a kid to see that?
Yeah,
I thought it was great because I got exposed to all the things that early.
for
Altered
sure.
States, all those kind of films. And even that. So, like, for me, American Werewolf in London, and I think there were these, seeing those films, especially something like American Werewolf in London and or Altered States, they were not the Thing. They were not that kind of horror film. They were definite, departures from that Thing. American Werewolf in London clearly had humor involved because John Landis, I think, was great. Especially he had that streak in that middle in those 80s, those early 80s that I don't think he did any wrong. He was just kind of on it. And so I was like, oh, I would love the opportunity to show those things. And so,
Yeah.
in my bag, I got my little bag of things I want to definitely work on. I would love to do a sci-fi fantasy because I also grew up a Super Lucas dude, and especially the kid. I mean, Steven Spielberg kid era of the Goonies, and those kind of things where I would love to, try my hand at you know, a sci-fi, a bigger budgeted film to see. I mean, they're down all over here, but I got my little Django Fett. I got all my stuff, and I'm actually even wearing my Boba Fett shirt. So like,
Yeah.
I'm a Star Wars too. So I
Yeah.
see my stuff in the back. So
Yeah.
it is definitely I want to see what I can do. So I think that's the best thing as a filmmaker for me to try and see what it is I can do. Also, I think doing that allows me to establish my signature as a filmmaker. I think if I try those different things, I get to show kind of my thing in doing that. In the same way I brought up the John Landis thing, or even, Wes Craven, I think he showed a very specific thing in the creation of his films that was very clear. So, there was horror, but they kind of broadened what that genre kind of could be by how he approached them. And I think, but it still gave him a signature look and a signature way of storytelling that I think is important as a filmmaker.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely gives the different approach because with the Thing is more the paranoia,
Yeah.
and then I mean, the Fog. You have
Yep.
the same kind of vibe cinematically, but the fear of the unknown is two totally different fears of the unknown. Even just like the fear of the unknown being the main concept until you finally see the Thing, or you finally see the zombies in the
Right.
fog.
In the fog.
Like
Yeah.
just on that, like he like scares your fear of the unknown two totally different ways.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. And then you talked about American Werewolf in London, which is arguably the best werewolf movie of all time, honestly.
Yeah.
Like it is really, really good. And it is not that scary, but it is horrific at the same time. And the fact that he made that movie so horrific that like the transformation scene so iconic.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like he's talking to his overly like decaying buddy at a movie theater every 30 minutes. Like, what are we talking about? So like it is interesting how the horror genre like works within those barriers and can be so different.
For
And
sure.
then the whole Star Wars ambulance stuff, man. Did you see the D23? Did you see the trailer for Skeleton Crew?
Yes, I did.
It looks like an ambulance Star Wars thing.
Yeah, it does. Totally
I'm excited for it to see. Like, it's the first thing too. Like, watching that trailer, I thought for sure because my God, Star Wars fans love to hate Star Wars. Like, they love. If there's one thing they love more than Star Wars, they love to tweet about how shitty Star Wars is.
Right.
So, in watching that trailer, my first thought I was like, "Damn, this is like E.T. Star Wars."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, "Fuck, they're gonna annihilate this thing on Twitter." and no one's talking shit about it. Everyone's like, "Okay, I'm here for ambulance Star Wars movie or show." Like,
Right.
okay, like we're
Yeah.
coming around a little bit, I guess.
I
Like
mean,
you guys,
hopefully, I feel like you should. It should be open to seeing where the because it clearly is a universe. Allow the universe to be not just the universe you've expected it to be all along. You know what I mean? Like,
dude, yeah, and it's just it's wild. Like the acolyte thing was fucking insanity to me. That they
mhm,
were pissed. First, they were pissed that the you have like your true pieces of shit that you got to like cipher through. Who are like, oh, I can't believe it's a fucking black female league. Okay, suck a dick. Like, get the hell
right,
out of here on that. But then it becomes like shit like about, oh, I can't believe that like we're not seeing yada yada or and it takes like, oh, well, when he fought and he blocked the lightsaber with his fucking thing, that was cool. Oh, well,
right,
maybe the show isn't that bad. Oh, okay, well, upon second watch, okay, well then shut up, dude. Like, come on.
right.
So that is one thing I will say about indie horror is you never really get that shit. It's like everybody. I got asked the other day uh, about reviews, doing reviews on the show,
Uh-huh,
and I said, I don't do. When we started, I did all kinds of reviews, good reviews, bad reviews, didn't care.
uh-huh.
And after going to film school, I'm like, I don't do bad reviews anymore. Because, like, I'm like, if I enjoy something, I talk about it. And if I enjoy something a lot, then like something else, I may talk about it for like multiple weeks or more. But if I don't enjoy something, unless it's just so bad, like Transformers 5, like when it's something like that gross, and it's like just like them trying to take people's money and
Right,
not giving an independent movie a shot,
right,
I have no problem talking shit about that kind of stuff.
right,
But if it's like a movie that, like this movie, like if it was be something, knock on wood, because I'm not anticipating by the trailer hating it, but if it was just not for me, it's a simple like put it in the show notes, like thank you for coming on board, like check out the movie and the link in the show notes, and I don't gotta talk about it because
right.
not talking about it is fine. You don't have to sit and like bitch about it. And
Exactly. I think
for
that was something I learned on this in the process of making this film. Because I was obviously I watch 4 or 5 films a week, something like that,
yeah,
and so you can get in that critical mind. You're like, oh man, oh this, and when I made my film, I was like, you know what? I can see now how some of this goes sideways. I
oh
can
yeah,
see like the idea, concept, everything makes sense on the page, and then
oh
once
yeah,
it starts up there, like this isn't anything close to what I thought it was gonna be. So now I'm less critical of like how things get done because I also realize, there's a lot more to it than just here, and now it's there. It's way more difficult than that. So I've definitely eased up on my uh, critical eye on things.
dude. My first time holding a camera before film school, had the camera in hand, and we're shooting a scene. Real simple. Guy comes into a girl's bedroom, and she does the classic, like she moves up to the head of the bed to get away from him. He's
Mhm.
in the door frame, and we're shooting a two shot of them, so almost as if you're watching it from the window.
Mhm.
And they go for maybe like 30 seconds, and they're jamming, and I call cut. And they're both like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, when you're watching it, when I'm watching this in my mind, it now goes to a close up of you, Charlie." The actor's name was Charlie, and they were both like, "Yeah." So you just shoot the whole scene, and then
Right.
you shoot it again, and then you cut it after. And I was like, "Oh man, I'm an idiot!" Like what? And like it's just like stuff like that. Until you are in the behind the scenes of filmmaking, you may not think about it, man. Like
Right.
how much truly goes into it.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's why I freaking I will not shit on a movie anymore because
Right.
it may be the biggest pile of puke that you've ever seen, but they worked hard on it.
They worked hard on it and they were committed to it, and so many people just don't either. That's the other thing. You
That's
just
the other thing.
you sit on it, and you're just like, oh yeah, no, 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 and it's like, no, they did it. So that's the thing I got into over the past year, especially during after COVID or during COVID and after COVID. I just watched so many things. Even if it was I watched it through because I was like, you know what? They spent all this time to get this work done. All these people committed to this project. All these people are dedicated to seeing it all the way through. So I'm gonna give it the shot and give it the
For
go.
sure, man.
Take it in. Take it in.
Movies saved a lot of people's freaking sanity level during COVID.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah.
There's not like there's no bigger appreciation than I had than for streaming during COVID. Like that was my
Yeah.
God.
Oh yeah.
Well, now, man, you guys did your opening night. How was it? How did that go?
It was great. The turnout was great. I was excited to see it on a screen. We had seen it on a few because of the film festivals, but those people are going there as a festival. So there's they go into it knowing what it is, knowing kind of the setup for everything. And this was an audience that had a lot of people who had no idea. They read a little description, decided they wanted to go to an independent, to the Lemley Theater and go see an indie film that was about this. And it felt good seeing reactions and hearing reactions, and the distributor and I was happy with how everything turned out. So that felt good. And then also knowing that, it's not much longer. The turnover is quick for its debut on Apple TV as far as for buy and rent. And then it goes to the AVOD after that. So it was definitely SVOD after that and then AVOD, but it was really great. I felt great. I was like, oh my God, like I'm watching a film we finished 2 years ago. That's the other thing about process is going, it doesn't just happen and then all of a sudden the film's out. We shot the film, we ended shooting in the end of August of 22 and the end of 22 and 23, I was editing the film. Then we started getting in film festivals, had to do that. Then that run goes, and then that's October, September, August, September, October, you're doing all that. And so it was a 2-year process, and you got to see it. And that felt great.
Thank you for saying that, because it's cool to hear you talk about that, because where you are on the filmmaking front is where, our group, we're going to make our first mini feature right now. We've conquered the short film aspect, and we've had this short film that we made, and it literally did like a grand circle tour, festivals all around the globe, and it had this success. So we're making the second one. The first one was like 12 minutes long, and this one's going to be like 20 something minutes long, type of a thing. But people don't understand like what the time that you're talking about when from shooting to now you're ready to do something else.
Yeah.
We shot this 10-minute movie. We shot this thing in 2021, and it just now is like getting done with being in festivals.
Right.
It's like wild how long, like when you're committed to like the one thing to like make sure it reaches its maximum.
Yeah. That's I don't know. It's also a dedication to the process and knowing what it's going to be. I think you don't know, and you just kind of, and that's the thing. It's the first time I didn't know it was going to take 2 years. In my mind, I shoot the film, it's done. Someone's going to go, yeah, of course we want to put it out. There's so much you take for granted and don't really think about. And even the editing, like I had to learn, I learned to edit during this process. Like I hadn't edited before. And then even that, when it goes to the festivals and we win a couple awards for editing, I was like, shit, so it fucking does do something. Like we did the work. And so now looking forward to seeing these next, this next month. I think it rolls out to all its platforms and over this next month. And then we'll see, how people take it in, whether it's something, people join up for whatever, for a sequel or for another film to be made or for people to just, hey, that was a great business card. You know what I mean? Like really, like your business card is very nice, And then
for sure. The movie you mentioned Apple Plus first, so is it going to hit there before the other stuff?
Yeah, it does. It hits there first, and then that's on that's the 13th, August 13th.
Oh, damn. Okay. Right now. Okay.
And then I think it's September 13th where it rolls out to the other streaming.
Stuff. Gotcha.
So Apple got first dibs on that first 30-day window. That is like I learned about that too, and like this anti-piracy kind of rollout stuff. I didn't know anything about either. So yeah, so Apple has Apple Plus, Apple TV Plus, and then it goes to the others from there.
Nice. Well, man, Shihan, I cannot wait to check this movie out. I think that everybody who is in our audience will definitely dig it. It definitely is a story that speaks to not just horror fans or indie horror fans, but just the whole community as a whole. So I'm excited to check it out, man. And where can everybody keep tabs on you to see what you got coming out next?
Oh yeah, Instagram will probably be the best way now. Is at the real Shihan, as my name is spelled. So the real Shihan, Shihan, and yeah, I post there, and yeah, you can see whatever it is I'm working on will show up there for sure.
Right on. Everybody go check out Shihan's stuff out, and make sure you watch my first horror film within whether if you're Apple TV this coming week or everything else in the next coming month to kick off your on season. Thank you, buddy, very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me.